Hey guys, you're tuning in to the Rappler Gaming League's online invitational for League of Legends, featuring teams from 8 major universities in the Philippines. I'm Tessa Wu. I'm going to be your play-by-play caster again for this week's match.
And I'm Taknum. I'll be providing you with the in-depth analysis of what's going on in the game. So guys, if you guys haven't been tuning into the show, last week was the game between the Azure Eagles and the FEU Tamaraos.
We're not going to give any spoilers though with what happened in that match, because if you want to watch highlights and recaps from last week's match, please check out Rappler.com for everything related to the Rappler Gaming League. Speaking of that, please do check out the Rappler Gaming League's Facebook page and like it. If you haven't yet, please like it and share it with your friends and family. Also, please follow the Rappler Twitter account and subscribe to the Rappler Twitch channel for anything and everything Rappler Gaming League.
Definitely, guys. You should definitely check out the site and like us on Facebook and Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. Have support for the community, guys. And it was a really great game last week. So if you guys want to check it out, it's really exciting.
Actually, guys, we have another segment for this stream. We actually have shoutouts. And we have a shoutout coming in from MIT Kryptonite, from Nico Montenegro. He is the team captain of MIT Kryptonite, and his shoutout is actually to his girlfriend. He says, in his own words, "Loyalty is real, and you make me a better player and person every single day."
Wow naman! Very sweet coming from Nico.
He actually also has advice to all the League of Legends players out there, even though it goes against what most professional players advise to their fans. He actually says getting a girlfriend makes you a better player. I wouldn't know if that's the case, but that's the advice coming from Nico Montenegro, the team captain of MIT Kryptonite.
Yeah, maybe if I had a girlfriend, I wouldn't be in Plat. Anyway.
Shots fired to self. Shots fired to self.
Speaking of love, we have another shout out from Pseudopodia, who actually just wants to say hi to Tessa. Wink, wink. If you know what that means, guys.
Hi Pseudopodia. Add me up. Let's play a game sometime. And we also have another shout out from APC Rams. It's a shout out from the entire team, and they're just saying hi to the entire APC League of Legends community. So those are the shout outs for this portion of the casting. If you have any shout outs, please comment on the chat beside the Twitch channel, and maybe we can do some for you after the break.
Or follow us on Twitter and hashtag RGL. Maybe we can see all those shoutouts and have them on display next time.
Next time, yeah.
So we have another new segment called Team Profiles.
Yes, guys, we actually have team profiles from the teams that are participating today. So it is MIT, or Mapua Institute of Technology, Kryptonite, and we have Asia Pacific College Rams.
Yeah,
so,
we have a lot of their player names and favorite champions, so we're gonna show that in the screen in a bit.
How do you think of the new visual HUD before we get that on board?
I actually got really annoyed with the new visual HUD when it first came out, because like everything switched from like the map.
I'm not used to it.
Yeah, and in the ranked games, kind of been messing me up.
Actually, I know the new visual HUD was available in normal and custom games. I think last patch. So I wasn't bothered by it because guys, here's a fun fact about me. I rarely play normal games. I rarely ever do. The only reason why I would play normal games is because I haven't played with certain friends in a long time. I haven't seen them in a long time, and that's the only reason why I play normal games. So the visual HUD never bothered me before, but now in this new patch, it's in ranked game and it's been bugging me. But the weird thing is, I've had a 6-game winning streak, so maybe it's not as bad as it seems.
Yeah, I guess what they're really trying to do, even though there weren't really any big issues with the previous HUD, they're just trying to clean up some stuff. Like now you can see the cooldowns for the ultimate. You don't have to just wait for the green dot to appear, right? It shows the circle stuff.
Well, that's one thing, but what I don't like is how you still have to have another step to look at your stats. I think for me, that's what bugs me the most, that I can't really see my stats as easily as I could have with the old HUD. Because now I have to press C, if I'm not mistaken correctly. I can't even remember if that's the case.
Yeah, and Actually, I'm actually really more used to the old HUD. And the new HUD, I guess it is better if we get used to it in the long run. It has a lot of optimal changes. And we're actually loading into the game right now. So
The pick and ban phase.
Pick and ban phase.
So the first ban coming in from MIT Kryptonite's actually Evelyn, and I'm not at all surprised by this ban. She is one of the most frequently banned champions in ranked game as of now because of her really strong early game pressure, and she scales really well into late game. So an obvious pick coming in from MIT Kryptonite.
The thing about Evelyn is you can't also counter her so much with wards. Like, you really have to invest on a pink ward, and even then you can only have a maximum of 5 if your entire team buys them, right? So
and now the first ban coming in from the APC Rams is Ari, and the second ban coming in from MIT Kryptonite is Vayne. What do you think about these succeeding bans after the Evelyn first ban?
I'm actually surprised that they banned the Vayne because Kryptonite has a really good Vayne play. I mean, their AD carry has it as his most played champion if you check his match history recently. So pretty interesting.
And now we have a Sejuani ban as the second ban from APC Rams, and the last ban coming in from MIT Kryptonite is Victor. I actually feel like these bans are targeted bans. And I think one of the reasons why MIT actually opted to ban the Vayne, even though their ADC's most played champion is Vayne, is the fear of not being able to prioritize that champion during the selection. Because hypothetically, let's say APC Rams actually pick up the Vayne first, then that will be a really big disadvantage to them, for example.
Yeah, and right now we can see Kryptonite's already picked Sivir is one of the stronger utility AD carries in the game. Of course, we've seen her get nerfed this patch in 5.15, where her ultimate isn't as strong, but she still has relatively a larger amount of grouping power than other ADRs that we've seen, or AD carries that we've seen so far.
Okay. And now we're gonna see the two next picks from APC Rams. The Maokai is being hovered at. So, as you can see, Maokai is a really good engaging champion from mid to late game. So we're gonna see if they're gonna lock that in for APC Rams. And there has yet to be a champion picked by Rams Fluffy Kid.
And it's gonna be the Janna. So basically, APC is actually gonna saying that we want to contest this all-in engage comp and just disengage and re-engage later on. Because the Maokai is a really strong frontline, but he lacks, let's say, split push tools, unlike other AD top laners. So he's dependent on grouping up, and that Janna pickup basically wants to negate any fast engage from the Sivir and then re-engage later on with the Maokai.
I actually like the combination of the Janna and the Maokai because you basically give your team two options. You have the option of hard engaging with the Maokai, and I'm already going to assume that he's going to build a Righteous Glory just to keep up or to match up with the Silver Ultimate in the event that they do want to hard engage. And with the Janna, they also have the option to disengage in the event that they're at a disadvantage. And now the two picks coming in from MIT Kryptonite will, depending on if they lock in, will be the Gragas and the Xerath. Or Morgana, forget it. We're just gonna wait till they pick their champions and they go back to the first pick, which is the LeBlanc and the Shen.
LeBlanc is actually a very interesting pick. We haven't seen her much
lately
in the current meta, especially since with the AP item changes and the LeBlanc nerfs.
Yeah.
A lot of the assassins have been falling off in the current meta, but in competitive, I mean, Janna is very prone to getting picked off with the LeBlanc. So if they have a superior vision control, they will be able to get those picks.
They'll be able to maximize her picking off capabilities. And now the two next picks coming in from APC Rams, they're hovering over Elise and the Tristana. I actually want to talk about Elise being a jungler main. Another fun fact about me in case you didn't know. I really feel like, okay, now it's Gragas. Man, I wanted to talk about Elise for a while. I'm just gonna wait till they lock it in so I don't waste any time talking about champions that are not being picked.
And it's gonna be Corki. That's actually very interesting. And Gragas.
The Elise talk will be probably for another time, but Gragas obviously one of the higher champion picks for jungling because strong engage and disengage. Once again, I really do like the combination of Gragas, Maokai, and Janna just because you have options between those three. But how do you feel about the Corki pickup from APC Rams, for example?
I found it a bit interesting, especially
I wouldn't have thought
yeah,
that they picked the Corki.
with the Gragas, because this basically stacks a lot of their magic damage. Because even though Corki is an AD carry, a lot of his damage comes from the missiles and his phosphorus bombs and his spells. That's a lot of magic damage that he's outputting. So in a way, Kryptonite can efficiently itemize against them.
With magic resist.
Yeah, with magic resistance. And it might be a little bit risky.
And now the last picks coming in from MIT Kryptonite was locked in with the Rumble and the Nautilus. I'm interested. I'm probably gonna be a Shen support and Nautilus jungle, I think. How do you feel about jungle Nautilus? Because it really depends for me with jungle Nautilus because he can either be the best thing that's ever happened to you or the worst thing that's ever happened to you because his jungle clear is significantly slow and low. So in order for him to be effective, he really does rely on successful early gank. So we're gonna see if the jungler of MIT Kryptonite is gonna be able to capitalize on that and give a lot of assistance and pressure for his teammates. And the last pick coming in for APC Rams is the Jarvan. Now it kind of makes sense because you were talking about earlier how there was so much magic damage coming in from the team composition of APC Rams, but having a Jarvan kind of rounds it off in a way, giving that attack damage just to, for the lack of a better term, diversifying their damage output.
But then we also have to take into consideration that Jarvan's damage is going to be centered in the early game because later on he won't have a lot of offensive items for that AD. However, I think overall, APC does have a better, team fighting comp in a sense because they have all the means to disengage from that Sivir ult, and that's one of the only utility things that Kryptonite can use to
their advantage, basically.
Yeah, on a 5v5 basis. But on the other hand, I also think that Kryptonite does have a better solo potential. So
in terms of laning, you mean?
Yeah, and not only that, because usually champions that, for example, split push or go to other lanes, if they can force other champions to go there and they're stronger, they're gonna have better map control as opposed to other champions. So I think they can set up picks if they play around their composition.
I actually want to point out, I initially thought it was a Nautilus jungle, but there was no last-minute swapping coming in from MIT Kryptonite. So it's actually a Shen jungle and Nautilus support. Now, what do you feel about that?
I feel like it's gonna be one of the slowest jungle clears.
To be honest, I haven't seen a jungle Shen in a really long time. Really long meaning this season, guys. I've seen probably last season, but I haven't seen one in so long. I'm actually surprised. Because what I normally do as a jungler, whether I play ranked game or ranked team or even with my friends, I like picking a jungler that can in a way match the enemy jungler, for example. So Gragas, one of his advantages being the jungler on your team is that early ganking pressure because of his body slam, for example, and that slow stun. And the slow that actually comes from his barrels is really ideal when you're setting up for ganks and trying to get kills for your team. But they picked the Shen to go against that. What do you think could have been their thought process on that? Because at least for me, they might probably play it the same way they would have if Nautilus was their jungle. Try to prioritize early ganking in order to capitalize on him being the jungle, basically.
Yeah, I'm actually not too sure about the Shen pickup because the only thing he has in the jungle is sustain. And any other kind of utility he has isn't limited to the jungle. He was better off as a top laner, right? At least Nautilus has those certain tools. But I guess we'll just have to see what their thought process is and how they play out with the Shen.
And now, we mentioned earlier that we were gonna do team profiles, and we're gonna do that now actually. So we're gonna introduce the players that make up MIT Kryptonite and APC Rams. And here they are. So Kryptonite, we have Wuzzy Fuzzy coming in from Nikolai or Nico, if you know him more casually.
We have Kevin, Vorn,
Gabriel or Gabriel, I'm not sure about the pronunciation, who is Nej. And Nikolai, again, weirdly, coming in as Diddles and Marco as Ringer. So those are the players playing for MIT Kryptonite. And now we're going to go to the players of APC Rams. Here we go. So we have Kent, who is basically Rams Kent, Renato, who is Furu, Marco playing as Johnny, Rogelio as Fluffy Kid, Timoteo as Kim, John as Burger. I really like the guy because burgers over pizza, guys. And Gerald for Saint Gexas. And now we are about to load into the game proper right now.
What's actually interesting about APC Rams is that a lot of their players play a dual role.
Actually, I was gonna mention that because what we had all the players do before submitting their profiles to the Rappler Gaming League was to submit their roles and their favorite champions. And comparing all the teams that are participating in the Rappler Gaming League's online invitational, they have the most players and the most diverse players in terms of roles because a lot of them actually are combinations of different roles. For example, jungle support, mid-top. So I'm really interested to see how they plan to use that to their advantage.
Yeah, they might be able to change a lot of their players depending on which characters they prefer to play. Last week we saw Motus and Zen change up roles a bit in the jungle and mid lane. So
yeah, they're players from the Azure Eagles, guys. And
we might see that again this time and see if they can throw off MIT Kryptonite.
Because there's usually an ongoing debate as to whether or not it's better to specialize in a particular role or to have dual roles. More often than not, people usually go on the side of specializing in a particular role, but we're gonna see how that plays out for these teams today. Because as for me personally, I actually don't mind having dual roles. That's just for me, honestly. I don't know if you agree with me or not.
I think in a solo queue setting, it is...
That's exactly what I'm thinking about, guys. Very solo queue.
Because solo queue is a lot different from competitive play, right? Even if you're the best, for example, support in the world, it doesn't necessarily mean you can climb to challenger because you won't always get that role.
Exactly,
so in solo queue, it is more preferred for you to have at least 3 roles.
I remember talking about this with one of my best friends. You're either a specialist or you're a jack of all trades. And even though jungler is my main role, I dabble in support and ADR. I only have probably 2 champions at most for mid and top lane. So when I get stuck with those roles in solo queue, I'm just praying I'm not counterpicked because that's my only saving grace. What about you, Taknum? Specialist or Jack?
I play 3 roles.
So you're a Jack.
I guess you could say that, but recently I haven't been playing mid lane as much as I would like because, you know, in PH, it's the most contested role. Everyone wants to be mid or everyone wants to be ADR.
That's the most contested role for you?
I think so. Unless you've seen otherwise in your solo queue experience.
Well, for me, the most contested role is probably top lane, which is good for me because that's my worst role. I can only play... I probably shouldn't say it because if ever I get into solo queue, people might take it against me. Never mind, guys. I can only play 1 champion in top lane, and I'm gonna try to keep that to my grave, just so I don't have any difficulty when I do solo queue. But I have to agree with you on that point that if you are playing ranked team, for example, and you're joining competitions, it would be advisable to be a specialist and specialize in your role and have a diverse champion pool in that way. Because even I can agree, being a Jack myself, even though I play support, ADR, and jungler, my champion pool as a whole or holistically isn't as wide as specialists. And now we loaded onto the Summoner's Rift with APC Rams and MIT Kryptonite.
So both teams are just grouping up, but we have
another pause coming in. I'm actually gonna check if we might have another shout out for you guys to see if we can do something for you guys.
And it's actually back. They're in the rift, so you can just see the teams grouping up, trying to get those deep wards in. So we can see MIT rotating down bot side, which we've already talked about in the past, how junglers usually start bot side.
Especially in solo queue, because they want the support of the duo lane, basically. And I don't think that any of these teams at this point are planning for an early invade, because there was a ward planted by APC Ram. So any funny business coming in from MIT Kryptonite is practically negated, even though in theory, APC Rams would have lost a 5 versus 5 just because their Maokai is already at top lane. And he would have blown a teleport if ever a 5v5 fight actually did happen. So I think as of now, it's gonna be the standard jungling start from both teams.
It might have actually been possible for them to rotate to the top side since they saw 4 people in the bot side, but they're just keeping it safe. They don't want to lose any huge advantage at the start. So they're basically just going for standard laning phases.
You know what's an interesting technique that I watched from an LCL game is when you have a Maokai top, what he normally does, he actually plants his saplings at one of the jungling camps to clear out the 3 minions for the mid laner and leaves the big minion for the jungler when they come, just to give that advantage to mid lane. It's really phenomenal, guys. If you haven't tried it out, try it with a Maokai top lane.
And getting those 3 smaller minions also allows him to have a slight XP lead for a cheeky level 2 attack.
He would have gotten a tremendous advantage, especially over a LeBlanc. So obviously that wasn't done. Just an advice for you guys to try at home.
It's actually a Jarvan mid lane, and we haven't seen this in quite some time. It's actually been played a few times and
by Team Gravity in the North American LCS.
The only thing that's the problem with the Jarvan mid lane is you have no way to escape once you commit to that all in. So it's more of a kill one guy then die kind of build.
We'll see if the mid laner of APC Rams will be able to play the Jarvan to his devices pretty well. And top lane, we see Saint Gexus is actually getting a little bit too much attack from the rumble of MIT Kryptonite, although it's pretty expected for this trade to happen, and more trading coming at mid lane.
Maokai actually started with a Doran's Ring 2 pots, so I'm expecting him to get a little bit bullied in lane, maybe get kicked out earlier than Rumble.
I actually wouldn't have suggested those items. More often than not, when you're fighting a Rumble and you're melee, you usually opt to buy the flask to have more sustain in lane, and now he's being severely bullied. So we're gonna see if the jungler of APC Rams is gonna come to his rescue.
Yeah, but it's still early in the game. There's only around 3 CS difference, not really a lot. But if Rumble can successfully bully him out of lane, he can probably push the wave and make his TP, waste his TP.
And now there is a gank at mid. There is a failed body slam though, and now Vorn is actually able to escape pretty safely. And there is another event happening at bot lane, but with a proper Howling's Gale, Ringer is put to his place.
So we saw Shen actually trying to counter gank in mid lane.
Yeah,
but
how did that go?
He was a little bit too late, and he doesn't really have a huge amount of range with his taunt. So
exactly.
Kind of a questionable pick with this Shen.
Oh, and now the hook does land, but he is forced to Valkyrie away, and both the bot laners of APC Rams are at less than half health.
Slight advantage to bot lane, and if they manage to kick this Corki out of lane, they can deny an entire wave of experience. We actually—
Whoa, and a laugh coming in trade at top lane, and the Gragas of MIT Kryptonite, just kidding, APC Rams uses his flash, but to no use. A lot of trading and a lot of ganks coming in from almost all the lanes.
That was actually definitely a win for MIT in top lane because they managed to get the flash out of Gragas.
Yeah.
He used the flash body slam and they couldn't secure the kill. So that's around 5 minutes of weakness for Gragas.
Definitely. It's usually a trade on your favor if you're able to survive an enemy gank and you get summoner spells off of your enemy. That is definitely something to do. And there was another attempt to kill the top laner of MIT Kryptonite, but he is safe once again, and another pause coming in.
This is actually one of the reasons why in competitive, even though you're stronger in lane, a lot of players opt to not be as aggressive as they can be, right? Because it's not a 1v1 thing.
You have to always think about jungler pressure.
Yeah, and junglers, more often than not, are able to sneak in your lane if you're playing a little bit too aggressively and punish you for it.
Actually, one of the things to protect yourself from enemy jungler pressure is to not extend yourself too much. But it's often forgotten about, especially in solo queue, because once you're extended too much out in your own lane, it's basically an advertisement to the enemy jungler to come at you, basically.
Even though it's really tempting to bully.
Yeah, it's really tempting to bully. I would agree with that 100%.
So right now we can see Shen's actually doing a decent job in the jungle. He just cleared 16 minions as opposed to 10 from Gragas. So he's sort of ahead, which is quite surprising, but it's more or less attributed to Gragas trying to gank a lot of lanes.
Well, I honestly feel like in order for the Shen jungle to work, you actually shouldn't rely on ganks from him. He's, in a way, I would equate him to Warwick, not necessarily in terms of their kit, but in terms of how you have to prioritize getting to level 6 sooner than actually ganking your lanes early game. Because you have to accept the fact that with the kit he has, he doesn't have as an efficient ganking pressure as Gragas. So instead of trying to compete with that, because you know you're gonna lose, you should actually prioritize in farming up and getting to level 6 as soon as you can so you can use your Stand United. And I feel like that's where the strategy of the jungling pattern should be for MIT Kryptonite.
Yeah, and he has a lot of opportunities to counter jungle, especially since he sees Gragas all the time in different lanes, and maybe use that opportunity to take some of his camps.
And counter jungle, definitely. But as you can see, the bot lanes of MIT and APC, well, as of now, Corky from APC Rams was actually able to get back a little bit of the CS deficit he had earlier on. And now the taunt lands against the Gragas and he is punishing him just a little bit and he is walking away for another day.
Yeah, just a little bit of love taps there in the jungle.
Just a little bit of teasing, no commitment from either of the junglers of APC and MIT.
Actually, how do you feel like LeBlanc does compared to this Jarvan mid lane?
Look, the Jarvan is actually 18 CS up at this point against the LeBlanc.
Yeah, with the current nerfs to the LeBlanc.
Oh, and he uses his ultimate trying to get her down, but she actually does use her exhaust on him and she might be able to take first blood, and she does. Will the potion save her? And it doesn't. Even though she got the first blood, she ended up dying, and a revenge best circled from the grave.
It was actually a good call for Jarvan to go in at that exact time because he saw LeBlanc use her distortion. But then, yeah, so LeBlanc had a power weakness with one spell missing. However, the problem with that is the distortion did land, so it wasn't necessarily a one less spell since she did land it.
She did land it properly. And one thing I want to point out, it was smart of the LeBlanc to actually get an exhaust. It's normally what mid laners do, AP mid laners do against attack damage mid laners, like Zeds for example. So her being able to land the exhaust on the Jarvan basically gave her the opportunity to get first blood. And now there might be another clash of mid between the two mid laners, but no, just a few, as you said earlier, love taps here and there. And now they're fighting for the scuttle, and it goes to APC rounds, and there's going to be a clash with 3 members of... Oh,
Oh my god! And now the equalizer does land and Rams Furu does die. And there was a teleport coming in from Saint Gexus, and now it is a 1-for-1 trade. And now there's going to be further trade coming in from them. Oh, and the Nautilus does land his hook, and now Saint Gexus is trying to run away as best as he can. Will they tower dive him? And they do. So now it is a 3-for-1 trade in favor of APC Rams.
Yeah, APC Rams was very zoned out in that game. They were caught out in the river, and Shen was able to get a lot of their members stunned, and a lot of them ended up paying for it. And we'll see a replay of that in a while.
Here it is. So it actually looks like
Yeah.
that MIT Kryptonite's actually in a disadvantage. But then the equalizer lands, chunking out the health of Ramsfuru.
So 3 of them actually did get caught out by 4 of the people from MIT, and it was just too late, the teleport from Maokai, and they had to pay for it already with 1 life. And that teleport should have been cancelled in my opinion, because once that person is down, there was no way of salvaging that clash.
And I think it was a good call coming in from the Nautilus of, but that'll be a conversation for later, because the dredge line does land and he lands his ultimate, but the Corki of APC Rams was able to Valkyrie away to safety. Actually, what I really liked about the Nautilus from MIT Kryptonite was how he roamed. So it was just perfect timing that by the time he was in mid lane, there was a clash that ensued, and he was there to offer up basically as another literal body for his team, because the Janna was all the way at bot lane, and the Sivir, who was left alone, wasn't even punished for it. Oh, and the explosive casket barely even does anything to the Nautilus of MIT Kryptonite. So that is 1 ultimate spell down.
He was actually trying to knock Nautilus back, but he ended up knocking him into the wall, so negating a lot of the pressure there.
And now there's actually another clash at mid. Let's see if we can see that. Oh, Ramsfuru at less than half health once again. And we're seeing top lane, Saint Gexus is being bullied by the Rumble of MIT Kryptonite. And there is warding happening at the Dragon Pit. So we're gonna see if MIT Kryptonite is going to prioritize in that. Oh, and the Monsoon was landed by Ram's Fluffy Kid, but to no avail, because the Stand United does come in and the taunt does land, but he's taking too much tower damage from APC Rams.
LeBlanc's actually rotating behind them. If she manages to get a pick, it's gonna be a really huge advantage. But she just backs off, seeing the Gragas there.
From APC Rams. That was interesting. Imagine if the Gragas wasn't there. I think the LeBlanc might have actually committed to that, because LeBlanc, one of her strongest attributes to a team is being able to pick off low health champions, basically.
Yeah, if she was able to get that double distortion in, she might have gotten a double kill, but not too much aggression coming from her, knowing that she might get picked off herself from that Gragas pick.
But if you can see the CS difference from the mid laners of these teams, LeBlanc at 62 CS and Jarvan at 96, that is substantial. I honestly didn't expect a discrepancy this high.
Well,
did you?
Well, I guess Jarvan does have a lot of wave clear with his Q and his flag, as opposed to LeBlanc in the early stages of the game. Of course, LeBlanc only has 1 AoE spell that she probably can't use for farming, otherwise she becomes vulnerable to ganks and counterattacks.
But now the blue buff goes to her, so maybe she'll have an easier time catching up on CS at the mid lane. And we see a lot of pings coming in from the APC Rams. A possible gank probably from the Gragas at bot lane. So we're gonna see if he's gonna make rotations on the way there. As of now, there is no wards from MIT Kryptonite on Dragon, whereas for APC Rams, if I'm not mistaken, they have the Scuttle and several wards scattered in the area. So maybe the APC Rams will be able to take advantage of this and actually gank the bot lane of MIT Kryptonite. And we're gonna see if that's what they're gonna do right now.
Yeah, Rumble's actually trying to put on a lot of pressure on this top lane, knowing that Gragas is in bot. Even though the farms sort of equal, he is managing to deny experience, I think, because He's been
Oh, and
back too much.
the Nautilus uses his ultimate and he tries to escape with the explosive casket, but to no avail. I think he will die because Crypt Wuzzy Fuzzy was able to use his teleport and land his equalizer, but the Jarvan takes revenge for his fallen friend, and a teleport coming in from Saint Gexus. Will they be able to go and do further trading? I think they might have, because Crypt Wuzzy Fuzzy is on Rampage, but there was a shutdown coming in from the Corki of APC rounds. Holy mother! There was the taunt that landed, and now it is a double kill coming in from the Shen of MIT Kryptonite, and now it was a 2-for-3 trade in favor of MIT Kryptonite.
That was a bit of a misplay coming from the Corki because he tried to flash in and he actually went into the taunt. But
Wait, the dredge line lands. He tries to dragon flag and make his way to his escape, and unbelievably, the Jarvan of APC Rams lives.
that is that was a very surprising trade, especially since Maokai got there a little bit late.
Yeah.
Let's see what happened in that
Too
clash
many things
again.
happened, so we're gonna see that.
So here, 5 of the members are already there attacking 4 of them. So they got caught out. Maokai does teleport in, trying to distract them, and they have a really low HP, manages to get the Janna. And at this point, it looks like they can win, but then he flashes into the taunt
The
and gets
Corki got a little bit too greedy, and the
Yeah.
dredge line was able to catch the Maokai of APC Rams. I actually want to commend the Nautilus of MIT Kryptonite. He's been landing those dredge lines really well, and it's been able to secure his team a lot of good picks. So, good job to the Nautilus,
If
basically.
Corki didn't get taunted there, though, they might have had a chance to turn that around, especially since Jarvan was already rotating back from the
think
mid
so.
lane.
It was honestly,
very close.
It was very close, but I honestly can't really blame him for flashing in for a kill as an ADC. It's the ADC godlike syndrome. So we're gonna see if he'll learn from his mistakes in the next clash. And now they want to set up for Dragon, both the teams, but the Nautilus won't have any of it, and he's able to land his ultimate, and the LeBlanc might be able to catch out the Janna, who's trying to take shelter in her own turret. And now the Maokai of APC Rams was able to take down the top turret, and they might actually, the other members of MIT Kryptonite are gonna take Dragon, I think.
Yeah, this Dragon wouldn't be too contested, especially since Maokai's in top lane. So this is gonna be a relatively easy Dragon unless he gets there on time. Rumble trying to zone them out of the Dragon Pit. Nautilus doing the same from the backside. And it looks like they might be able to get it. Oh, a Cataclysm actually erupts.
And now the Jarvan of the APC rounds was able to kill the Nautilus from MIT Kryptonite, and there's going to be a follow-up with Crypt Nedge on a killing spree, being able to kill the Gragas of APC rounds, but that is quickly responded by his shutdown coming in from the Corki, and another kill coming in for the APC Rams, killing the Sivir. So now it is a 3-4-1 clash in favor of the APC Rams.
That was a little bit too greedy from Shen, especially since they already got
They already
the
took
dragon.
the dragon.
There was no need to engage in that situation, especially if you got the objective already. Why would you risk any more kills, especially since you already got chunked down by that dragon and you,
Significantly.
Yeah. So a little bit of a minor miscall from MIT.
We're gonna see that again through this instant replay.
So he does try to zone out. They get the dragon and they're trying to back off, but Shen actually taunts in. So a little bit of miscommunication from the team. And here they got into a choke point where a lot of their members can dogpile damage to specific members.
Dogpile damage. I never heard that term before. I actually do agree with you because I actually don't think it was necessarily a misplay from Shen. I feel like it was just because the other members of his team weren't nearby. I feel like if they were closer and he was able to land the taunt, which he did, then the damage output from the rest of his teammates would have come much sooner. But the problem was, since he was so far from the rest of his teammates, even though he did land the taunt, no one was basically doing damage to the enemy team or APC Rams, essentially.
Yeah, so
even the Rumble blew a flash trying to help him out there.
A little bit of miscommunication. They could have capitalized on that 1.5 seconds from the taunt, but it just went the other way around since they were too far. But they do manage to get this mid lane turret, and they might be able to apply a little bit more pressure around the map especially since the mid lane turret has been destroyed already.
And now all the members of APC Rams are actually conglomerating at bot lane. Sorry, it's a weird adjective, but it is one that exists, Webster guys. And now they might actually take the first tier bottom turret, and the equalizer was blown by the rumble of MIT Kryptonite, but it won't do any good because the tower does fall. And now 3 towers for APC Rams.
They are rotating to top side, trying to get another turret in exchange for that. So it's gonna be a somewhat of a base race if APC does stay for this. MIT is already in top lane against that Maokai, who has very minimal wave clear. So they might be able to get this tower, but Rumble already blew his equalizer, and it just might be a tier 2 for tier 2 in bot lane.
And I don't think any of the teams are actually going to commit to a tower dive on any of the solo members of their enemy counterpart. But interestingly enough, that the Maokai can't even protect the tower, like he said, with the minimal wave clear that he has. So the second tier top turret of APC Rams does fall.
So there is a little bit of a misrotation there. You can't really destroy that tower as long as Rumble's there because he still does have that.
And the dredge line lands once again, and the Gragas actually does use his explosive casket. Oh, and he lands the Cataclysm, and they're able to kill one member of MIT Kryptonite. Will it be 2? We shall see. Oh, and it happens to Manasay Gexus does kill Voren, and Rams can't slays Lushen from MIT Kryptonite, and I think they might be able to take the Rumble as well. The Sivir is left alone. The Phosphorus Band does not land, but he's able to use his ultimate, his bomb, and kill him. And now it's an ace, a clean ace.
This will be the Baron. Although some of them might die if they don't manage to rotate this Baron efficiently. Gragas getting a little bit low, and it's like Maokai is gonna get it, but it seems like they will be able to successfully get it.
And he does die! The Janna did not go in time to give him a shield, but here's the consolation prize. 4 other members of the team actually get Baron buff, and they're gonna get a sapling as a second prize to that. That was unfortunate for the Gragas.
So let's see what happened again in that play a while ago when they got caught out in the jungle.
Oh!
So there was actually a massive Jarvan ult trapping 3 members into that Cataclysm, and they were able to pick up 2 members from that. Sivir being left alone later on with Jarvan and Gragas chasing after the Rumble, trying to kill him down. And it was a very clean play coming from APC Rams.
Exactly, and the Sivir had no frontline at that point, basically giving them Baron instantly. And to be honest, prior to that fight, MIT Kryptonite had the upper hand because they got the second tier top turret without any contestation, and the LeBlanc was able to chunk down a significant amount of health from the second tier mid turret also. But obviously, sides change, and there might be another clash. So the Shen actually gets caught in the tribush. Will he be punished for it? An equalizer lands, and Janna actually tries to use her monsoon and flash her escape, but it doesn't work. And now 1 member from each team is dead, but the body count is going to increase because the Shen was able to take down the Corki. St. Gexus tries to respond to that and kill the ADC of MIT Kryptonite, and there's further damage coming in. Will the Gragas die? And he does, but now it is another ace, but in favor of APC Rams.
It was
oh my god!
That was a valiant effort coming from MIT. However, I don't think they should have engaged that, especially since they already had that Baron buff, and those stats were to their disadvantage. They did manage to get the pick on Corki, but it was too little, too late. Jarvan still got blown up himself, and APC winning that fight again.
That's actually another interesting thing, because even though they technically won that fight, they lost members with Baron. That's another interesting way of putting it, because obviously they got the ace, they got the gold, but if you also think about it, they also lost members with Baron, with the exception of Gragas, because he already died to Baron before he could taste the sweet sense of Baron.
I felt like they could have waited that Baron buff out though. So not sure if that's such a huge way to deal with it.
MIT Kryptonite, you mean?
Yeah, I actually think there is a little bit of miscommunication coming from MIT, even in the clash before that one, wherein the Sivir ult tried to make them get away from them, but they were questioning whether or not to run or engage.
I actually feel like MIT Kryptonite is too separated with these clashes because I can almost imagine their clashes working out with the initiations that their Shen has been doing. But the problem is they're too late to respond to those things. And you're probably right. Maybe it might be a communication error between them because they probably don't know that he's about to engage. And when he does, they don't know what to do about it. Because the first person to follow up is probably the Rumble of MIT Kryptonite. So he's usually the first one, him and the LeBlanc. But more often than not, the bot lane of MIT Kryptonite, composed of the Sivir and the Nautilus, have normally been late or away from most of the rest of their team.
Yeah, there already have been, I think, 3 instances of those clashes wherein they didn't seem like they were on the same page on whether to engage or disengage. Maybe it's due to the fact that one of their members is in a different net cafe. So
it might be. Hopefully G-Talk will be able to smooth out those issues. And now at almost 25 minutes, APC Rams is at almost a 5k gold lead, almost 5k.
Oh,
the Righteous Glory was popped. Will he be able to grab anybody? Oh, but MIT Kryptonite actually does try to awkwardly ram into APC Rams, and we're gonna see who wins the trade. And oh, Saint Gexus from APC Rams was blown up, but he was avenged by his teammate Corky. And no, it is a 3-4-2 trade in favor once again of APC Rams.
yeah, I think MIT could have won that if the equalizer was better placed in that fight, but the equalizer actually missed a lot.
They're committing to this tower dive. He tries to dredge line out of there, but no. Will they be able to kill? Voren was forced to use his Zhonya's, but will it actually save him? It might. No, it doesn't. And now Rams Johnny from APC Rams is legendary. Barney Stinson coming in for you guys.
And they're probably gonna get this tower in addition to the kills that they've gotten.
Oh my god! So many bad successive team fights coming in from MIT Kryptonite, who were in a significant lead at the beginning, but now the tides have changed and there is 2 minutes leading up to Baron respawning. And I think right now that's where their priority should lie, because that's gonna give them that extra advantage in terms of stats and minion wave pushing.
Yeah, and LeBlanc's actually not that great of a pick in this
scenario.
In this specific scenario, especially since she can only blow up either Janna or Corky, since Jarvan in the mid lane, who's supposed to be squishy a lot of the times, has that Hex Drinker.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I really want to commend that itemization coming in from the Jarvan, because that basically made him sustain in lane more against the harasses coming in from the LeBlanc. And here's the thing, even though LeBlanc is known to be you know, a pick-off champion, you have to take into consideration that even the attack damage carry that APC Rams opted for is Corky. So he has that Valkyrie, he has an escape method, a very efficient one if I might add, because the distance, it puts him at a great distance coming in from any enemy champions. So that's one thing to consider. And now the Jarvan actually uses his Cataclysm alone. Will he be able to drag and flag out of there? No, because he is shut down by Voren. And now other members of MIT Kryptonite want to capitalize on this. Crypt Diddles actually kills Rams Fluffy Kid and gets a double kill. Crypt Wuzzy Fuzzy is forced to use his Zhonya's and flash out of there. And Ramskant was actually able to take down the Shen. And there's too much tower aggro coming in in favor of APC Rams. And oh my gosh, Saint Gexus was able to get a double kill. Will he be able to get a triple kill? And they're trying to play hero right here. Oh my god! And now an ace coming in favor of MIT Kryptonite, and they might be able to capitalize on this. And I don't think, will they bother pushing in the 3rd tier mid turret with the death timer significantly low? Will it happen? No. They're gonna call it a day and walk back.
Yeah, they definitely won that, even though it seemed like they committed too much into that. So let's see the replay of that clash.
Happened. We need a replay.
So in the mini map, you can see that Corky is actually very far at the start of that, and they were able to deal a lot of damage up front to a lot of the members of APC before they were able to rotate there. However, it seems like they misplayed it since they were in that tower for so long, but they were still able to rotate efficiently end to end to get that clean ace. managing for a 5-for-3 trade.
Actually, to be perfectly honest, I'm surprised that MIT Kryptonite came out on top because they fought at that tower.
To wait because it seems like
there's gonna be no contestation, let's be honest. It isn't warded, if I'm not mistaken. Yup, there are no wards from MIT Kryptonite at Baron Pit. So APC Rams once again was able to get that Baron pretty cleanly. And the Gragas able to get it for the first time because he died the last time.
So if you noticed in that last clash, a lot of their members weren't there and MIT just pulled the trigger finally, knowing...
Finally, because they were actually all together at that point.
Knowing that they were separate, the enemy team was separated, they took the initiative. However, it seems like they didn't have a lot of communication or wards, and APC was able to get the Dragon and the Baron in exchange for that.
Despite the fact that MIT Kryptonite did win that last clash, they probably lost this term in terms of objectives because literally APC Rounds was able to get both Baron and Dragon without any contestation from MIT Kryptonite. So that's going to hurt them significantly because now the gold lead of APC Rounds is at almost 6K or at least 6K right now. That is significant at 29 minutes and 54 seconds.
And that's usually the case in a lot of these team plays. Whenever a team manages to ace another team and their death timers are relatively long, if they're forced to back, that's a window of opportunity
for them to get Baron.
For them to get Baron. So they did manage to win that clash, but they had to back, giving APC the opportunity to get that Baron buff.
So we're gonna see what both teams decide to do with their current predicament because APC Rams obviously has the Baron buff. So we're gonna see if they're gonna utilize that and try to push in as much towers as they can. What they're doing right now is actually putting a lot of offensive wards. Considering that they have Baron, it is the smart choice. So they want to be able to pick off members who are alone at the buff. And now there's going to be another clash. Shen does land the taunt, but everyone else is so far from each other. And the equalizer does land, hitting maybe 3 members of the APC rounds, but no one has died yet. The Cataclysm does land, and Ramsjani was actually able to kill the Shen from MIT Kryptonite. Oh, and they're tower diving, and the Maokai was able to kill the Sivir of MIT Kryptonite, and it actually might be 3 members down. The Gragas tried to tower dive, but will they be able to do it? The Phosphorus Bomb does land, and Ramsjani secures the kill. And it is a 3-4-0 clash in favor of APC Rams, and now they have their eyes set on the 3rd tier mid turret and possibly the inhibitor.
Yeah, the gold lead and the Baron buff was just too much in that clash. That clash started out as a 5v4 in favor of MIT, and they do.
The support takes down the LeBlanc. You can't get to me. That's basically what he's saying. And now, instead of going for the Nexus turret, they're gonna play the safe route and actually get the 2nd tier bot turret of MIT Kryptonite. Will they bother going in for another round? No. Rocky says, let's take a break.
Yeah, APC just has a huge gold lead, and that Baron buff really edged out a lot of the errors that could have happened in that clash. Corki only got 1 assist in that entire clash because he was so far away from the clash.
But they practically didn't need him. Did you see that coming from the Jarvan?
Yeah, they were just so ahead in a lot of the itemizations, and they were on point in who to focus that they didn't need Corki in that clash, and they were able to win it outright.
Exactly, and now, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of a way for MIT Kryptonite to get back in the game. They're not too far in terms of kills. Obviously in gold, the disparity between the gold differences is incredible, but right now they really have to focus on winning these team clashes because no objectives are up as of yet. And with the Baron buff, I think it's still on if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, the Baron buff has just worn off. I feel like they really have to pick their team clashes way more carefully this time because I think we can both agree that prior to all the disadvantages
but another beautiful equalizer hitting 4 people in that choke point, and they're actually engaging and manages to get the Cataclysm. They're ramming into the APC Rams, trying to get through them, manages to kill 2 members.
Oh my god!
Shen actually dies, and it's a 4-for-0 trade.
And the Sivir is nowhere in sight. And once again, MIT Kryptonite are just not staying with each other. And APC Rounds is punishing for them. are punishing them for it. They're literally dissecting them with all the tools they have on the table, and there is no response coming in from MIT Kryptonite. And now a second inhibitor is going to go down from MIT Kryptonite. Do they have their eyes set on the Nexus turret? And they do. They want to kill the Sivir, and they do. She was popped away by the Corki, and I think they're actually bothering to go through the fountain, and they do. Although the Maokai of APC Rams does die to the fountain, it probably doesn't matter because they have their eyes set on the Nexus turret. But will MIT Kryptonite bother to fight them back? And they do. The Shen actually is able to kill the Jarvan of APC Rams. They're trying to lock in on the Corki, and the LeBlanc gets in the shutdown, and now their Nexus is safe, but for how long?
So they have to expose the inhibitors.
Oh my god, and
the Nexus. So this is huge amounts of pressure. The Dragon is live in 50 seconds and the Baron is live in 1 minute. And if MIT doesn't get it and gives it to APC, this is gonna be the game.
This is gonna be the game, exactly, because they have super minions that are going to get that Baron buff. So that should be the priority of MIT Kryptonite. I know all the Barons and Dragons prior to right now, they barely contested any objectives, but this is the time for them to basically become Superman, for the lack of a better term. I know, MIT Kryptonite, but guys, they have to pull off a Superman, or I guess a more appropriate term, a superhuman play right now, and have their eyes set on Baron, because that's what's gonna give them that extra push they need against these super minions that are coming in from two sides of their base.
Yeah, but again, this is a 12k gold difference. It's about a 3k item per player. Almost a 3k item per player.
Almost a 3k item per player.
And now they're just getting the Baron buff, the Dragon buff, and they'll probably try to rotate to the Baron buff after, since they have exposed inhibitors. There's gonna be huge amounts of pressure in their base, but they're actually just trying to get the bottom turret.
Here's the thing, even though I gave that weird speech about them becoming Superman and taking Baron buff from themselves, I completely understand why they'd want to defend their Nexus, because it is completely exposed, and this actually might be, oh my god! Voren was forced to use his Zhonya's, but he won't live for too long, and Ramsjani was able to secure the kill. And he's going to tower dive even more, going against all the members. The equalizer does land on 3 members of APC Rams, but probably to no avail. Ramsjani was able to escape, but Crypt Wuzzy Fuzzy is trying to chase him and get him for it. And but the other members of APC Rams will just not have it. They are going to go after the next. Oh, and a beautiful dredge line coming in from the Nautilus was able to drag the Corki to the fountain. Crypt Wuzzy Fuzzy wasn't even able to chase the Jarvan correctly, and now the Shen is left alone to his devices, and now the Nautilus is trying to find safety into his tower. Will he be able to do so? He does, but no, he doesn't. He dies, and now the other members of APC Rams are going to secure themselves the first game of this match.
Oh, LeBlanc going for some desperation attempts.
Desperation attempts! Will she be able to get a double kill? At least she does, but it's a win-win match with the Janna by their side.
And that's the first game. GG going to APC. Manages to get those clashes and rotations away from MIT. Beautiful play coming from both sides. But in the end, APC gets the first game.
That was intense. That was an intense game, and it was significantly long, actually, if you had to think about it. Oh my god. That was a really good plays coming in from APC, because I know, at least in terms of early game, MIT Kryptonite was winning in terms of kills and in a lot of team clashes, actually. But what APC Rams decided to do in order to retaliate against MIT was they were actually grouping up together, to the point where whenever MIT Kryptonite actually decided to engage on them, for example, all the members were there to back each other up, and that was lacking from MIT Kryptonite, who were more often than not far from one another.
Yeah, and even though they did get some good engages in, it was just a little too late, because
exactly.
Of course, even in what scenario would a LeBlanc, a Rumble, or a Nautilus be able to get to that Corki or Jarvan, especially since they have that Janna ultimate and that Maokai frontline. So in a lot of clashes, their team comp was simply negated by the Janna ultimate and their frontlaners.
And now we actually have an instant replay coming in from the last clash.
So it was a really good equalizer, but Corky's just managing to get a lot of free
He's
hits.
kiting really well, practically getting no damage. And the problem here, Crypt Wuzzy Fuzzy was trying to chase the Jarvan to the point where the other members of his teammates didn't have his assistance. So even though the LeBlanc was able to get the double kill at the end, Winions, dude. The Winions and the Super Minions were able to take down the Nex because there was no turret to back them up.
There was no way for them salvaging that game. Even if they did manage to kill almost everyone, it was just too late at that point, and it was due to APC's great mid-game pressure.
Actually, although initially you and I had our reservations against the Shen as the jungle pick, I actually feel like the LeBlanc pick might have been the downfall of MIT Kryptonite, to be honest, because even if she is a pick-off champ, they actually didn't have a lot of ward coverage. Majority of the reasons why they weren't able to contest any objectives also is because there was barely any wards on Dragon and Baron. So you weren't able to capitalize on that.
I think it's a lot of different factors.
Yeah, but
they did show their hand too early, right? They showed They showed Sivir too early, saying that that's an engaged comp, and they were able to counter them with all the counter engage. So, a lot of wrong strategies in the pick and ban phase as well.
Kudos to the team composition of APC Rams because they had, in my opinion, a really good combination of disengage when they needed it and engage when they said, let's fight.
So that's the game, guys. We're going to take a short break. And
a 15-minute break to be more precise.
And we'll see you after the break.
For the second game of APC versus MIT.
Yeah.